of the Frankenstein teams is what I like to call them. Two teams smashed together to try to find success under a different banner, and Game Talents went one direction and Saint went the other direction, and it's up and down.
Most certainly is, and it started off incredibly well for Game Talents as we move into Champ Select. They started out with 3 victories in a row, took down Snake in their very first match in Group A. So Game Talents will see whether they can finish off on a high note moving into their match against Vici in our first one of the playoffs. But as you can see, bans coming through thick and fast, as it is going to be Victor, Braum, and Siva taken away by Saint. And that's Talia and Rumble so far going over the side of GT. And we'll see whether they decide to ban away Vladimir or Malzahar, some of these massive picks in the mid lane.
We've seen a lot of Talia target banning against Otto in particular. He's a mid laner who likes to rely kind of on gimmick picks or less often played picks to try to catch you out in a matchup that you might not have as much information or respect for.
Yeah, and that's actually going to be Graves being the follow-up ban. Of course, Jimin does like his carries in the jungle, but it does not look like a Malzahar, does not look like a Vladimir, and it looks like Saint now to choose which one of the power picks they want.
If it is a priority pick on the Malzahar, which is now being hovered, Republic is very confident taking his Victor into this matchup. That's typically the route that LPL teams like to go, simply because he can compete with Malzahar's wave clear, although this is 6.14, so the cost adjustments on Hex Core have come through.
Unfortunately, the Victor is actually on the ban list, so he can't even pick that one up into it. Might be something like a LeBlanc to be seen by Republic. Of course, he has seen fantastic success on the champion, but I don't know how it goes into the Malzahar. I feel like you just press R on it.
The other comfort pick that Republic has is that Vladimir. He's had some pretty impressive solo queues on the likes of Xie and Xiaohu with that champion.
Of course, diving in between outer and inner turrets on the Vladimir, but it is going to be Jin locked in first here for XQ, as Game Talents can now get their pick of the litter.
Gimgoon hovering the gangplank. This has been a respect ban across many LPL teams, particularly for that top side. We really haven't seen him return to the mid lane.
Yeah, and I actually really like picking away gangplank when you've got a Jin composition as well, because Cannon Barrage into Deadly Flourish is a revolting combination.
It also puts pressure on them picking the Malzahar because it's that same theory. It's that Jin and Malzahar have to be stationary through the duration of their ultimates. They don't want to stand in that Cannon Barrage.
Yeah. All right, now Gimgoon still thinking about the GP. Wushang yet to make a decision. The Alistair being looked at for City. And it looks like maybe our, I guess, thoughts about why Savoki isn't on this roster at the moment could be getting proven. Gimgoon actually going to move away from Gangplank. That's a last-minute Narlock in. Going for some team fight.
Yeah, and that's a priority pick, revealing your top laner this far ahead. Now, Gimgoon certainly has the reputation and experience that he can blind pick a top laner relatively safely, but I feel like this is kind of losing Game Talent's identity. The strong thing about them in their draft phase is that they had so many flex champions available across their roster because mid, support, and top are relatively talented.
And something that Game Talents were always very good at was their draft phase. So unless they've got something interesting planned, so far, not so much though, as Jimin is going to lock away the Hecarim, and there's the Thresh for Shu. Definitely a comfort pick for him down towards the bottom side of the map. Now over to you, Game Talents.
Yeah, absolutely no surprises that Shu would go towards this Thresh. He's almost considered a Thresh one trick in his competitive career throughout the LPL. Likewise, Thresh has a great 1v1 matchup range versus melee support.
Yep.
A lot of counterplay options there, though, for the Alistar. Offers safety and mobility to Jin with his Dark Passage.
I do like what Saint have done, though, picking up their jungler and bottom lane. They can now save their solo lanes for last. Shen's still available.
It's a much more standard rotation through draft on second rotation blue side to look for that support jungler. So now it's what a Game Talents have in store.
At the moment, Pentacue looking for a comfort pick in either the Ezreal or the Lucian. We'll see whether he mixes it up. Let's have the Alistair there, and it is going to be Ezreal and Elise locked in for Wushang at the same time. So some early pressure from the jungle position, and Republic going to counterpick that mid lane.
And Wushang has a career trajectory that very closely mirrors that of Game Talents and their expectations. Came out very hot and heavy in the beginning of the LPL split. Super explosive. There was a lot of hype around him. He used to be on the sub and the bench for Team WE. They overlooked him, picked up Condi. He ended up on Game Talents, looked great initially, and then just kind of plateaued. He's a bit one-dimensional in that if he doesn't get that aggressive lock-in like the Elise and the Snowball, that he kind of teeters off.
Yeah, and I guess he made his debut on the Rek'Sai as soon as Rek'Sai was making her way back into prevalence as well, but has since shied away, picking that champion, and Shen now being looked at over the side of Saint. Shen and Karma, a lot of utility now added. Will mean that Chimin will be relied on for a fair bit of damage coming out of the jungle.
Also
so far, yeah, Saint pretty locked in right now.
It also means that XQ is incredibly important to this composition. Karma, of course, will drop off in her damage output late game.
Yeah.
Although this is a composition very similar to what RNG ran. And the beauty of it is you can use not only Hecarim for the Shin delivery system, but you can also use Karma.
Yeah, she just runs in there, speeds herself up with the shield and gets everything done. But does mean that it's not going to be a Vladimir, not going to be a Malzahar. Now Game Talents just look at Republic's LeBlanc, pick that one up for the mid lane, and for the first time in what feels like almost forever, both Malzahar and Vladimir go all the way through the draft. Looks like Saint and Game Talents had something completely different in mind. Interesting to note is the fact that Game Talents haven't actually played Malzahar once so far, has been through a few drafts, and they have just left it open. So Republic just maybe doesn't want to play that guy.
Otherwise, across the board, it is a lot of comfort champions. The fact that LeBlanc is normally target banned away from Republic, getting his hands on it in last rotation this game, so he should be very comfortable with that matchup.
Although, I'm looking at Saint's team composition, and as far as having a clear identity in what they want to be able to achieve, their backline dive threat is so powerful, their mobility, not to mention the fact that they can stop any of these picks coming out with that Lantern from Shu, and the amount of comfort that they have on a whole lot of these champions. Looking good for Saint right out of the gate.
But on the other side, Game Talents do have a lot built into their kits to kite backwards and to really deal with the initial backline dive threat. So if they can survive that from Saint, they have a ton of answers in terms of mobility to turn fights around.
We'll see whether it is going to work as the coaches shake hands. Let's get into game number 1 of Game Talents versus Saint. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, onto the riff for game number 1 between Saint and Game Talents. Our final day of the LPL regular season here for summer. Finally going to work out exactly where all of these Group A teams sit. And it won't be until after that final match of the night that we will really know what those playoff brackets look like.
But
now,
we can take a quick glance at the Keystone Masteries, which have popped up.
Yeah.
Should note Jin's Keystone Mastery, the fact that he went for the Deathfire versus the Thunderlords tells me that he probably wants to go into standard lanes or a 2v2 just because that Keystone Mastery will empower his ability in elongated trades versus the burst damage from Thunderlords.
Also the fact that Otto picked up the Deathfire touch as well. So interesting. Acorn has gone for 3 Rejuve beads. That's what we're talking about. Now Shu, possibly in trouble. Takes a few auto attacks and a Mystic Shot out of PentaQ.
Should just mean, though, that, again, we've established that this is for sure going to be a 2v2. We're going to back up to our jungle. You can see Shu kind of giving a respect ward, standing in that Tri-Brush, making sure that no one's going to late invade to stop the Krug, and we should trade Gromp for Krug.
Well, looks to be happening. Acorn going to help Chimin out on his blue buff here, as both junglers actually starting towards the top side of the map. We'll see whether they're going to meet towards the bottom side. And
really all eyes should be on Wushang. Now with Chimin on the Hecarim, he's typically going to try to power farm just because his items are very cost inefficient, especially when you're coming from the jungle. And it's really pressure on Wushang to either try to snowball his lanes ahead or more importantly find that isolated 1v1 matchup and try to put that Hecarim down early, which Wushang tends to err on the side of competing against the enemy jungler.
Of course, does have a lot of gang pressure on his side as well, so a few options for the Elise at the moment. Chimin may not necessarily be his aggressive self. on this Hecarim pick, because he does like to farm as Republic, getting aggressive onto Otto. Big QW combo.
Well, Saint are really just waiting for their big level 6 synergy. The Stand United, the Onslaught of Shadows, as well as the Curtain Call.
Yeah.
So can Wushang set the tempo and pace of that game before those big breakpoints come through, or will Saint get an easy ride through the early game and then make something happen bottom?
At the moment, Wushang actually getting a little bit pressured here in his jungle as he takes away his blue buff, but it's just a ward going down for Shu. Does pull City away from this bottom lane. We'll have to keep tabs on how the new support is doing with Pentakill on the bottom side.
He does have LPL experience. He did sub for a small amount of time on Energy Pacemaker All, so he's not completely new to the professional scene. And again, game talents are the combined efforts of Energy Pacemaker All as well as Masters 3.
Yeah. We'll see whether he's going to fit back in as chains land here in the mid lane. Nice shield for Otto, keeps himself safe. And actually trades back quite all right. Republic's got his eye in here in the mid lane, though.
Otto playing very aggressive, though. We expect this out of this mid laner, but it typically burns him. I'd like to see him be a bit more cautious, because in the last 2 to 3 series, he's given up first blood for his team, simply because he likes to keep people pressured underneath their tower. Opens him up to jungle ganks.
Well, right now, almost got the snare onto Republic. As there's the flash forward, actually. Chimin comes in, but first blood comes down, and it's going to be Republic picking it up. Chimin immediately answers and might look for more here as Wushang taking a lot of damage. The red buff burns down, doesn't get the last rampage, but gets the flash out of the jungler.
And it's important to find that summoner, but more important is the fact that Otto just straight lost the 1v1. We talk about this all the time, that Otto was the mechanical upgrade over the other mid laner for Saint and Snoopy,
yeah,
but repeatedly is becoming a liability for his team.
Now uses his teleport, burns it to get back into this lane, has himself some boots for some extra mobility to possibly escape some chains, and another Doran's ring, but it's disaster as Republic already most of the way towards his Morellonomicon.
And with that teleport, he lost majority of that wave, and Republic actually getting back just in time. So Otto is simply just lucky that Chimin showed up right place, right time to at least answer some of that with the assist gold.
Yeah. Wushang actually getting kept tabs on towards the top side of the map. Good ward went in from Chimin as he counter-jungled that Krug camp at the same time, so knows exactly where the Elise is, and this bottom lane now able to play relatively aggressively.
Although eyes again on the mid lane. Otto does know that Wushang's here, which is why he's being very respectful, but again, he always wants to play aggressive, he always wants to be far forward.
Now Otto actually landing a decent mantrad Q onto Wushang, but the fact that that pressure is continuing to come out here from the jungler of Game Talents just shows how much kill pressure and how much power this LeBlanc has at the moment in this matchup.
Typically, teams don't let Republic get his comfort champion in the LeBlanc.
No.
Might be an oversight from Saint. They haven't really been known for their strong graph phase. There's a reason why they're currently sitting last in the LPL.
Interesting thing is how Republic plays LeBlanc in comparison to other LeBlanc players as well.
Plays her like a control mage.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal, I guess, team-fighting LeBlanc player, which is just not something you normally talk about as a thing that she does.
Yep, it's the emphasis on hitting these massive multi-man distortions.
Yeah.
Following up great CC with his... He kind of reminds me of Doinby a bit on the LeBlanc.
Yeah.
And that's really a success story in terms of LPL career so far, is the return of Republic and how far he's come. When he entered the LPL, he was kind of a mediocre mid laner, but he's certainly established himself as the staple for Game Talents and a lot of their success. There's a reason why they're going in as third in Group A. And yes, they did get the easier group in Group A. Maybe they wouldn't have been as successful in Group B, but Republic is a big factor for that, and he should be proud.
He is, at the moment, trying to deal with a Karma who just shoved him out of the lane. Did manage to get to that level 6. Of course, doesn't mean a whole lot for Karma, but Republic is now behind. Wushang is going to clear up this minion wave as it does crash into the turret. 37 to 49 as Otto goes back, gets himself a Fiendish Codex. Republic actually wandering back to lane with just the Dark Seal completed. No potions to come in, anything like that for the sustain, as Otto will still be able to continue poking him out.
Yeah, and Republic's going to have issues with these trades now that the MR has come through in tandem with Karma's shield.
Oh, he actually decided to sell back the Fiendish Codex and get himself the Negatron.
And a pause.
Yeah, we are going to have a slight pause. Having a look at Akon, who looks as confused as we are. this stage, asking exactly what's going on.
My screen's still in color. Normally it's black and white at this point in the game. Is something going wrong?
I'm pretty sure it's in sepia at the moment, as we do have a pause ensuing. But at the moment, actually, despite that first blood coming in, did look quite good for Otto as far as that laning phase making its self-known afterwards when he got back in with the teleport.
Yeah, and that's the big key thing, is the fact that he had the summoner spell of teleport available to him, so he was able to get back into the lane. Actually missed majority of the wave, but has now built himself up a nice little CS discrepancy between them. And you have to look at Otto and Acorn in terms of the win conditions for Saint. If Saint do win a game, what actually happens? Well, Acorn probably went off on a pick, and Otto didn't burn down the rest of his team with his aggression in that mid lane.
Yeah, and I think that it's not necessarily that Otto is a liability or anything like that. It's just he controls the fate of Saint in a lot of these ways, because he'll either kill everyone or just die.
Otto has the history now. Of course, he was formerly known as Dian Gun on Young Glory, and he was kind of mini Zatai when Zatai was still a mid laner. It's this idea that I'm going to continuously play aggressive. You think I'm going to step back in the trade, and instead I'm going to go forward because I can outplay you, because I'm the better player. It's this infectious arrogance almost. I really like it in a player, especially when he does get his hands on those assassin picks. Of course, this time around playing more the utility Karma, but he still has that assassin identity. He wants to continuously be far forward. He wants to kill you underneath that tower, and it's either going to snowball heavily in his favor, or it's going to be that double-edged sword and burn him.
Yeah, and we'll see whether Chimin can actually help out with this mid laner that is being hyper-aggressive, because of course managed to pick up that kill very early on. Hecarim, a champion that does want to get as much money as possible. At the moment, haven't really seen him moving around any other lanes, but the fact that he was there for that counter gank was very important.
Especially because he burned that flash on the Elise and sent her back to base, so Hecarim does have the lead in terms of tempo for the jungle. And again, Wushang wants to find that isolated 1v1 matchup. He wants to use the gank pressure of Elise, because Hecarim's going to be able to out-farm him and out-itemize him. Elise will always be viable in terms of her pick and setup support for teams, but Hecarim's going to be that hard carrier, or at least has the potential to be.
Yeah, most certainly. And look, we'll then have to look towards the bottom side of the map. Ezreal versus Alistar into the... Ezreal and Alistar versus the Thresh and the Jhin. And I have a feeling that Jhin Thresh at the moment have been able to shove that wave in quite repeatedly, be very, very fine. And honestly, it's a bit of a wash as far as two utility-based AD carries, maybe a little bit of extra damage potential for the Jhin in the late game. Otherwise, not too much to write home about. You can see already completely even as Chimin going to launch himself on top of Wushang. Nice repel gets him out of the way as there's the Stand United. Gimgoon's going to make his way down, but there's the taunt, and Wushang just gets ripped apart. That is going to be the red buff taken.
And the fact that Wushang was so heavily punished in that mid lane counter gank means that he's behind in experience, which allows Chimin to set up a successful play like that. And it's continuously putting this spider behind.
Yeah, and even Shu had moved himself up there at the same time. True Shot Barrage used by Pentakill on the bottom side of the map, just to try and assert some dominance. It's now City and Republic moving together towards this red buff on the other side.
Yep, they're trying to set a trap here for either Shu to wander back into lane, although Shu is smartly going the long way around.
Yeah.
Or find the lurking Hecarim.
At the moment, though, looks to be heading towards his blue buff instead. Not going to go for any steal, of course, because their smite no longer there. Republic makes his way back to the lane as it equalizes, but that farm still most certainly in favor of Otto. 16 in the lead. Make that 18.
Chimin.
Yeah, I'm going to hold on to the red buff, the blue buff for him.
Yep, stepping up massively for Saint in the back half of the series. You said that a lot of their success really started coming after Chimin was added to the roster, because you have so many great tools across the roster. The lane phase has really never been Saint's problem. You have a lot of ex-professional players or players with a lot of professional experience. It's not like they're a brand new LSPL team, very green and naive coming in. You've got people like Acorn up there, but they just didn't have the facilitator on their team, and Chimin's filled this role nicely.
Yeah, well, Republic going to find another chain here in the mid lane. Otto taking another round of poke, doesn't get himself the snare onto the LeBlanc, doesn't win out on that trade, missing the Mantra Q, a big deal for this Karma. Zakon now dealing with Gimgoon, who's very aggressive. Another Hyperproc comes down. Nice W, avoids most of the damage, but does have to be careful.
And Wushang responding to the pressure point that Gimgoon has created top by being so extended. I believe that they expect Hecarim to be in the area simply because they did deep ping down this river. Possibly have the opportunity for a dive if Elise doesn't come across the horse.
Well, Gimgoon possibly looking for the ultimate, finds it there as well, knocks him out of the way. Nice cocoon from Wushang, looking to make up for previous efforts, uses the repel, resets the aggro, and look at that. That tower's going to eat so many minions. As in goes Republic one more time. The Ignite's down. Will he be able to find the kill as the chains go off? More auto attacks are needed. Good shield there as Republic looks for the dive, flashes forward, finds the Q, finds the auto, and that's going to be the kill for GT.
And this is why teams religiously ban LeBlanc away from Republic, using his clone to tank that tower aggro, just beautifully executed on a mechanical level.
Ooh, nice hook on the bottom side of the map. Deadly Flourish to follow up as City gets punished. Only level 5. Can't pop the ultimate, but will be able to get out safely.
Well orchestrated across the map, although that mid lane gank was actually fairly risky because they saw that Hecarim wasn't on the top side of the map, so you have to assume that he's on the bottom, which means it's a 50-50 coin flip. I'm either going to dive this tower and Hecarim's about to show up, or he's going bot.
Well, at the moment, he is moving down here. Curtain Call comes in. They're looking for City, who has hit level 6. In comes Wushang. They're looking for it. The ultimate's coming down from Akon. Gets himself in a good position as they immediately take down the cow. In goes Gimgoon. He's teleported through, but the teleport from Otto was faster than the movements of the LeBlanc, who Republic has actually made his way in. Hyperproc still sitting there as Akon taking a lot of damage, but still pretty tanky. Gimgoon trying to stack up that Mega Gnar, and can he get it is the question. No is the answer, as Saint all move out.
So in return, they just pick up the kill. Could possibly turn on the Drake, but I think with the threat of Mega Gnar so readily available, they're going to wisely back off of that one. So all in all, not a lot gained from Saint.
No. Just the kill under City, who did buy a lot of time as well for his team. It's definitely useful as in goes Republic one more time. Has his Magi Soul Stealer picked up and connects the chains here onto Otto. Makes a fair bit of damage as well for his trouble.
The disrespect.
Oh, yeah.
Having that Magi's in your back pocket.
And losing out in farm so much. He says, well, I'm just going to stack this up. That's where I'm going to get my money from.
I don't need to farm the CS if I just continuously kill you. Again, one kill will equate to about 13 to 14 creeps.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not doing so bad. He's only about 15 CS down in terms of actual gold value.
Although, the level's starting to become a little bit of a problem. Still looking for that level 9 in the mid lane is Republic. Now Gimgoon getting aggressive onto Akon, and look at this damage he's already done to the turret at the same time. He's not going to be there for too much longer.
The LPL this split doesn't have the strongest talent pool of top laners, at least performing top laners. Yes, you've got people like Marn and Flandre, but they're both actually slumping in terms of where we have expectations for them. Gimgoon is probably the big standout. I think he's criminally underrated and often overlooked. Obviously has the history of playing on Zenix Storm. Back in Korea, he's played with the likes of Swift and Coco. And he's really the diamond in the rough if you look at this Game Talents roster.
At the moment, actually winning out on this top lane. So we'll see whether he can be what they need as well moving forward. Red buff helps take down the little Cinderling, as Wushang is at least able to lock that one down as XQ. Nice Deadly Flourish, but doesn't follow up onto PentaQ. Saint continue to push out this bottom wave, but looks like PentaQ just happy, safely farming, and City going to continue roaming around this map.
Well, he certainly has to respect the Jhin just because you do have those two big items available for him, the Dirk as well as the BF sword. So in terms of just raw damage, especially on that 4th bullet.
Wushang doesn't find the cocoon, is now Chimin looking for it. Otto over to the side. There's the ultimate. Good repel gets out of the way of the fear, but the chain, is it going to be enough from Republic? Wushang still just getting beaten down, and Otto picks up that kill. Saint once again in the lead as far as those kills are concerned.
Just an over-aggressive invade. We talk about this all the time with Wushang. If things go his direction, he can work very well with the snowball, but when he's ahead or behind, he doesn't adjust his play style, continues to try to find these invades, and can continuously be punished for it.
Yeah, now a whole lot of extra control here on the bottom side of the map.
It's going to be
Saint as well.
Another dive, potentially. We have Stan United available for Acorn. Here comes the assist pings, and wisely, Game Talents get the hell out of dodge.
Yeah. City did have that ultimate backup. But yeah, do not want to take any chances. It is going to be Gimgoon taking down the top outer turret. That should be answered relatively quickly, as Otto takes away the blue buff here as well. Chimin helps him out. Now they're looking for a Mountain Drake.
Yep, by shoving PentaQ and City so far back forward, they have so much space to work with on this Mountain Drake, which gives them enough time to burn down the tankiest dragon.
Yeah, and Chimin as well, now with his Phage. He's got a Sheen there picked up, so those Rampages able to augment his auto attacks quite nicely. Tower is traded there towards the bottom side of the map. Gimgoon steals away a blue buff for himself. Feels like a bit of a one-man army towards the top side of the map at the moment is Gimgoon, who's now looking to finish off that Frozen Mallet.
In the end, though, Saint do walk away with the superior trade by picking up 2 objectives, 1 neutral, 1 monster.
Yeah.
See if they're able to do anything with it. They've got all of their key cooldowns just about to come back up, namely looking at that Onslaught of Shadows, which will be available just about now.
Yeah, just up. But this is the time of the game where Saint can start having trouble. We're about to get into the mid game. Those first few turrets have fallen down.
Where it's about grouping up and making the correct decision around the map outside of the lane phase. It seems like once these outer towers fall, they kind of lose all of direction about which way to go. Yeah,
the solo queue mentality unable to be employed. And this is the real test, as now Republic doesn't find the chain. Decent double distort, as City was looking for more, but not enough damage onto Otto. Can't follow up as Chimin now in trouble.
Very greedy of Chimin to stay so long. Again, his team is pretty much entirely dependent right now on him getting back, getting healthy, and getting in position so they can start making use of that Stand United on the Onslaught of Shadows. So the longer that he's sitting, at 25% HP on the map, the more it's delaying possible plays and movements from Saint.
Yeah. Well, XQ and Shu going to get to work on this top outer turret. Pentacute doesn't want to move too far. He uses his ultimate. Does at least tag this bottom lane, but you can see already so much damage, and these caster creeps tearing the turret apart. That is going to go down, and Saint grab one against the flow. Oh, Acorn dashes his way out as the dive not really working out. Republic turns up in the nick of time, gets himself a chain, but Otto's teleported in. Big mantra E for the movement speed as now Republic has to flash out of the way of Chimin. Stand United comes down, but he gets himself all the way back. Republic now has to deal with Otto. The snare comes in. Can he actually get out of this? I don't think so, as Chimin does eventually find him. But that was a wild goose chase.
And across the map, Game Talent's really losing on every front, losing that tower for no reason, simply because they didn't stagger their backs and respect the building waves, and then losing the bottom trade, possibly more.
Yeah, now Chimin actually running after Gimgoon, and of course he's very fast now with that newly purchased Trinity Force. Hyperproc's going to come in, gives Gimgoon some movement speed, but he won't have enough to get out of this one, and Chimin 5-0-1 now on the Hecarim.
16-minute Trinity Force came flying out of the jungle. What do you expect here? Saint, they've been known to take maps, and they're in a prime position to do so against the third-place team in Group A.
And we have to remember as well, this Hecarim was picked up second round for Saint. The first pick, Jin, came in, and then they managed to last rotation Shen. His team composition is one that normally has to be picked up as soon as you possibly can.
And normally, Game Talents, again, are very strong in their draft phase, so pretty glaring errors. See if it's corrected in Game 2, or if they can at least pick this one back up as we go later and later. Again, Saint typically known to fall off in their late game decision making, so Game Talents just really need to hang on because they have shown that consistently they can thrive in the late game 5v5.
And that was proven when they were able to take down Team WE as well. Able to stand up. But we'll see whether this composition is still going to be able to do it. As Republic now, without any of those stacks on the Magi, is feeling a little bit silly with that purchase. As you can see, Raptor Cloak done for Acorn. I wonder what these last 2 Reju beads are going to turn into. I'm not sure. Hook lands on a Republic, though. There's a Deadly Flourish as he just gets popped. Shu picks it up with the box. And the curtain call was just a formality after the first one.
See what they're able to pick up off of this. They could turn towards that Rift Herald, which is what they're pinging loudly.
Yeah, they most certainly are. They don't have enough time here at 18.5 minutes.
Well, they have the option of sieging into top inner or mid inner or falling back on Rift Herald.
Well, looks like it is going to be the Herald. At least started up as Pentacue. Now at least with his 2 big items first come in.
It's a really nice window to pick up this Herald simply because you're getting it at 19 minutes, so you're maximizing the time spent on that buff.
Yeah.
I really like kind of the 15 to 19 minute time window just because it is a 20-minute glimpse of the void.
And it now also means that Chimin's going to be that little bit more powerful, and I don't think he necessarily needed to be.
It's pretty massive having that damage reduction in the 1v1s just because A, Chimin is an assassination force right now with the Trinity Force, but then it also empowers his ability to itemize early into Trinity Force because he has the built-in buff on resistances.
Yeah. Now, so you can see XQ, 5 CS in the lead, but he's got his Duskblade. He almost has his Ghostblade completed. This Jin is going to be very, very powerful as well. Feels like everyone pretty comfortable, and despite the fact that Otto died a couple of times, doesn't really seem to matter. He's 40 CS in the lead. He's got his Athenes. He's got his Abyssal Scepter. He ain't dying to magic damage anytime soon.
And it's really Saint just executing correctly.
Oh, Chim, and there's the headbutt pulverizes. True Shot Barrage comes in. Exhaust is down. Got him out of the way as Akon is going to get gnawed into the wall, but they aren't able to find anything else. And GT just threw a kitchen sink at Saint, and Saint said, oh, was this supposed to hurt?
But they did end up trading 2 big ultimates on either side. The Stan United being down as well as the Gnar ultimate being down, but this is very risky.
It is. The ward is going to go down. Saint now going to peel away. Shimon with the face of the mountain shield. Not quite enough to keep himself too healthy.
And what prompts this is the vision of Republic in that bottom lane. But I like the respect. It's very early Baron call. They're not nearly as tanky. If this was, 35, 40 minutes, they'd probably still pull the trigger on that one simply because LeBlanc wouldn't be in the fight.
Yeah, they would be able to do it fast enough. Of course, remember, they do have a Mountain Drake as well. So going to help them even more with that Baron take. They don't necessarily have a neutral objective locking team necessarily. No Cassiopeias, no massive consistent damage.
But they do really thrive as the map is opened up, having that pick potential and speed of Karma, Hecarim, and Shin, as well as the Jhin there to offer utility for starting team fights up with his slow on ultimate.
Yeah, the big follow-up potential. And
right
the Deadly
now,
Flourish as well.
It comes down to the lane assignments for Game Talent. So Gimgoon is in a fairly healthy place, but he doesn't have insane kill pressure on anyone. He does have a Frozen Mallet, so he can chase, but this is a perfect matchup. The fact that, yes, Otto didn't do great in his lane phase, but he can shut down Gimgoon, who arguably won his lane fairly hard and is kind of the shining light for Game Talents right now. Whereas Republic really can't go anywhere. The only kill threat that he has is on Jhin. And as long as XQ is hanging around with Shu, completely fine.
Yeah. And Shu, of course, we know, very practiced Thresh player, more than capable of being at the right place at the right time. So that Cloud Drake went down for free there for Saint as well. Picked it up, looking for the next one. It's now City and PentaQ here in the mid lane, trying to clean up. But it's 3 towers to 1 in favor of Saint. They have all the control that they would ever want here in the early game. 5,000 gold is the lead. As Republic just looking to keep clearing the bottom side of the map, as Acorn was shoving things up relentlessly.
Yep, just taking the free gold, trying to get stronger and stronger so it opens up different win conditions for them. Because right now, the only thing Game Talents can really rely on is hitting a massive Wombo combo. The Ezreal ultimate, massive 5-man distortion, as well as a big Gnar ultimate.
Yeah, that headbutt pulve is going to be useful at the same time, but we'll see whether it's going to be enough.
Or they could try to kite back, but...
I just feel like there is too much collapse pressure out of Saint, what with the AoE movement speed that you have with a Karma, and then Chimin able to canter so incredibly quickly.
Issue is that Chimin did get so far ahead that you had that secondary damage threat already online for Saint.
Yeah.
Because typically this will be the point where Karma will start to teeter off. Still be strong, but we're coming into, 25 minutes to 35 minutes where Karma starts becoming more of a utility as opposed to a carry.
At the moment, Saint setting themselves up in a bit of a gank brush. City will throw a ward in there, or try to, but in goes Chimin. They find a lot of burst damage. Good hook, but nullified immediately by the ultimate, but a big cooldown now. Not available for GT.
Yep, trying to find these picks so they can rotate into the Baron. Saint looking very decisive, at least around the map, knowing what objective that they want. There's 1 blue trinket still available for Game Talent, so this Baron isn't in an immediate threat just yet.
Well, there's the curtain call as City is going to get hooked. Remember, no ultimate available. Just going to face check and be destroyed. Wushang with the repel, but he's going to flash himself out of the way. Nothing to repel to. Had to get out. And now 4v5 as GT on the ropes at 24 minutes.
And they think that City's pickup is enough to pull the trigger on the Baron. There's that single blue trinket. Once it's down, Game Talents are now completely blind.
Well, hook onto Republic there as well as Shu gets himself in a good position. Nice cocoon. Stops a fair bit, but Otto's going to be able to take down the jungler. PentaQ kiting as best he can as Gimgoon running for the hills. And Saint now with 5 members still relatively healthy. Chimin and XQ maybe a little bit chunked. Are just going to go straight back to the Baron.
Shu also being set up for a trap possibly here. He has the option of looking for that dark passage into a hook.
Well, doesn't find it. Decent distortion there as Republic will be able to throw down some chains. The Baron relatively low as Shu flashes himself into the Baron pick. Gimgoon looking for a gnaw, but Chimin locks down the Baron. Now Acorn trying to be a big front line, and Gimgoon's getting so much damage thrown into his face. Duskblade's going to pick up the kill as XQ grabs that one for himself. And Saint grab a Baron and an easy pick.
disaster across the board for Game Talents. Without their jungler available, the only option that they had is to actually fight, but this was miscommunicated. The fact that Republic cheekily trying to come over the back instead of walking around the Baron pit with the rest of his team. You had some people set up to try to look for either a pick or a possible steal, while the rest of the team is set up for a big 5v5. You split your decisions, and you end up losing on both fronts.
Yeah. I mean, Gimgoon tried to get towards the backline, but you saw how much peel Saint had. He just couldn't get in there, taking way too much damage at the same time. Now XQ going towards that Maw of Malmortius for item number 3. So much armor penetration and denying a lot of Republic's ability to one-shot it.
And this is a much better look from Saint, so finding the momentum here to go into the promotion relegation tournament.
Yeah.
Normally, we don't compliment them on their decisive map movements, but they knew that they wanted that Baron, and they were patient enough to play around it for the last 2.5 minutes.
And on the flip side, it's looking dangerous for GT, moving into the playoffs, up against Vici first off. That was not going to be an easy matchup by any stretch. GT still looking like a lot of those problems are still there. Republic wants to be clearing out this wave, but Chimin's looking for a dive onto Gimgoon, or potentially Pentakill, who takes a lot of damage even after the Arcane Shift. The tower is going to fall. Nice headbutt pole, but there's the Stand United, and the ultimate for the re-engage from Chimin. Curtain Call comes down as well as XQ. Safe in the backline. City's going to get picked. One more bullet in the chamber. Does find Pentakill for a lot of damage, and Arcane shifts his way out. Gimgoon, double wallop, is going to stun up a couple, and Nara into the wall there onto Chimin, but doesn't get the stun. And there is still so much damage potential as Shu throws himself out a little lantern for Otto, gets himself out, but this is going to be inhibitor turret pressured out by Saint, and decisive play. 26 minutes in, we already have an inhibitor dead.
And it's proactive play by Chimin in particular that are deciding these fights before they even begin. Gimgoon is getting Meganar when it's already a 4v5 because someone has either been shoved out or just deleted from the map.
Yeah. Now Akon sets himself up into split push mode towards the bottom side. That inner is going to fall. This Baron buff is getting used to such great effect. That is more than 10,000 gold in the lead at 27 minutes. And Chimin still looking for more. Thought about using the E on the turret. Didn't want to as Gimgoon was there. But they are just going to take down the inner. Possibly move back and spend some money. But we'll see whether GT can find the engage. Looks like no, as Otto has so much AoE movement speed for his team.
They easily reset their position and will possibly look towards this next dragon spawning in 10 seconds. But Saint, they have their pick of the litter of anything that they want on this map.
And we certainly do. So much control here from the Saint roster. Not something that we're used to seeing. This is a team that has made leaps and bounds. Now Akon, he's got a Rot Portal as well as a Warmogs and a Sunfire Cape. He's just building whatever makes him happy right now.
Yes, we do need to precurse this game with the fact that this means nothing for either of these teams. Game Talents are locked into their third place position.
Yep.
Likewise, Saint are locked into the promotion tournament, but this is definitely momentum. You don't want to go down to the last place team in the LPL right before you go into playoffs.
Yeah, and the LPL is a region with a lot of pride as well. Game Talents don't want to be losing to the last place team moving into playoffs. Not going to feel good. Now Execute clearing out minions, moving towards that bottom side. The Baron inhibitor, like Frostgreen likes to call it.
The next big important one, because that Baron cooldown will be far and away readily available before Elder Drake. It's typically when we see the adjustments between bottom and top inhibitor and the priority to secure which one.
We actually have one more dragon before that Elder Drake comes up as well, so you're exactly right. At least 12 minutes till that one's there. Void Staff now done for Republic. But that is a desperation move. Hasn't even sold his Magi's, and he's up against so much damage from this Karma. As Chimin does get stunned, but takes himself a lantern, gets himself out, and is still looking very healthy with all the shields that he can get.
And back to running the split push, something that Acorn is very familiar with.
Yeah. Now up top. Chimin has tanked out a fair bit from Republic, who's at least keeping the horse at bay. And Pentakill on wave clear duty. Another chain is going to miss, but Distortion gets Republic back.
But it's really just a matter of time and patience. Likewise, when Saint want to pull the trigger when all three waves are pressing forward, XQ need only back up and open up his ultimate.
Well, Decent Hook comes in. City taking a lot of damage. Pops the ultimate.
There we go.
That's another big cooldown as the bullets are flying into the back of the cow. The last third bullet is going to land and pick up that kill. XQ dodges the last remaining one, but in goes Chimin, and this Ezreal just bounces around the fight and cannot do anything. Otto tanking up a turret for about 14 years, doesn't fall down somehow. It's now Gimgoon looking for a boomerang on him, but Nexus turrets are falling. Saint looking to press forward. Gimgoon's going to explode. XQ picks that one up. Otto is burning down with the Ignite. Not sure whether he's even going to die as Wushang eventually comes down from the rappel, and the Duskblade almost finishes that one off. The minions, are they going to be enough? Yes, they are, as the dash cannon was used to try and get his revenge. But the Nexus is now going to fall 30 minutes, and Saint clean up Game Talents.
And this is probably the most definitive and dominant victory that Saint have actually pulled on the map. Now, again, historically, they have not cleaned out a series yet, so there's still hope for Game Talents and Game Talents fans, but that was clean.
It most certainly was. Of course, Game Talents, the only victory that they've managed to pick up was against OMG. They were very long games. It was a 2-1 series. Interesting statistic is the fact that Saint have the fastest games this split of the LPL. They're just not often victories, and it seems that even when they're winning, they're able to make them fast. 30 minutes? That's a quick one.
And I think this really comes down to the early game in particular. The fact that Shimon was able to get a great counter gank off in that mid lane, get himself ahead in terms of experience, and then directly went after Wushang, knowing that he had the level 6 advantage. And once the Elise was behind, there was really nothing Game Talents could do.
Yeah, and look, Shu still looked fantastic as we're having a look at some of these highlights. And it looked like every single pick was working exactly how it was supposed to here for Saint. They had all of the answers to everything that Game Talents were trying to do. Even that swag Duskblade kill under Gimgoon there towards the end of that fight. Just seems it went from good to better here for Saint, despite Otto getting first blooded.
And at the end, it comes down to execution. We said that Game Talents, they have the opportunity where they can take control of the early game because they have the heavy ganking jungler. As soon as the heavy ganking jungler was put down, Saint were able to cruise control into their level 6 power spike and start using those ultimates around the map.
Yeah, they were. And the thing that was great as well is the fact that that first blood was picked up by Republic. That was a relatively even trade, as it was immediately followed up by Chimon grabbing that kill. But what he did immediately afterwards was burn the flash, like you said, on the Elise, and then go straight into their jungle, get vision down. Made sure he knew exactly where Wushang was, so he couldn't utilize that early pressure. Went to his Krug camp, that had been denied. Also walked over the vision, and it just, from there, was Saint rolling over the top.
Yep, systematically destroying them. Again, that's the cleanest victory that we've seen from Saint on a map. We'll see if they can clean it up with the series.
Well, that is the question here, as we are going to move to a short break. When we get back, we'll see whether Saint can control the momentum, move forward, and take down GT. Don't go anywhere.